is actually a website. It's a social network for athletes.
Is that right?
And so it'll track your results. Yes.
What's the network?
Athlinks.com. Yeah. So yeah, it's telling me I've done 82. I would say maybe about 30 or 40 of those have been triathlons.
You know, they say if you do something too much, it can kill you. You would qualify.
It hasn't killed me yet. I like this number. Total race miles, 1,818.
Total race miles,
1,818
miles. Okay.
miles. Swimming, biking, and running. Yeah,
that would be the official sort of number. Okay.
Total, yeah. For the races that are listed on Athlinks, which they don't actually have all of them. But
so that's cool. So over 80 races.
Total. That's including 5Ks, 10Ks, marathons, half marathons, a couple of open water swim races, and then triathlons of various distances.
So at this point you're having fun?
Yes, yes.
So what is it that gave you the bug to start this at age 39?
Well, I did the first race just because I always thought triathlons were cool, and I just wanted to give it a try and see if I could finish. And I finished that first race, and I actually did a lot better than I expected. And I just really enjoyed the race environment, the excitement of it, and so I immediately wanted to do another, and that's always been the feeling.
What's your biggest challenge with regard to this skill set of yours?
You know, it meshes nicely with my life experience, the legal training. That was a long haul, so there's a lot of deferred gratification involved in that, a lot of patience and a lot of tenacity. So all those helped me in this triathlon endeavor. The biggest challenge is juggling the two, work and training. When I'm training for a long course race, that's a pretty significant time commitment, and so I have to work that around a full-time work schedule.
So is it every year there's a certain amount of races that you look forward to?
I've been doing as many as I can afford.
What are the popular ones?
Some of the popular ones around here, one I'm fixing to go to is Beach to Battleship in Wilmington, North Carolina. Ironman Augusta is a 70.3 mile race in Augusta, Georgia that's very popular. That was a couple weeks ago. They just had that one. Some popular local ones. I actually haven't done the Lake Lanier race, but that's a well-attended race. My favorite is the Jekyll Island Triathlon, the turtle crawl, that's done in the spring. Any excuse to go to Jekyll Island, but it's really cool because it supports the Sea Turtle Center, and so they usually release a sea turtle after the race. So you do the race, that's exciting, and then you see the sea turtle release, and that's exciting, and then you spend the weekend at the beach.
So these typical races, are they typical, or they generally do the same thing, swim, bike, run?
Well, that's the standard format, but there are other formats. There's also, there's aquathon, which is swim, run. There's duathlon, which is either run, bike, or run, bike, run. There's aqua bike, where you swim and ride the bike, and that's the end of the race. And then you can do relays, and so you can have a team and each person does one segment. There's a lot of variety in the multi-sport arena.
So you just recently traveled. You want to tell us about that?
Yes, I just got back from Weihai, China for the ITU, which stands for International Triathlon Union Long Distance World Championship.
And first of all, there's a long trip getting there, and then to walk us through that.
Yes, well, it is 7,000 miles. That's a 12-hour time distance. It is literally the opposite side of the world. I had to fly from Atlanta to Detroit, and then in Detroit I took another plane to Beijing, China, and then in Beijing I had to choose a local airline and fly another couple of hours to Weihai, or to Yantai, China, because the Weihai airport was closed. And then they had a local organizing committee who actually picked us up at the airport as volunteers. Yeah, because it was a pretty long drive. It would have cost us some money.
Wow. So you went to China. This is your first time going to a China?
First time in Asia.
First time in Asia, and that must have have been a cultural shock of sorts.
It would have.
How did you prepare?
Yeah, it would have been had I not prepared. I actually was able to make contact with a student at Gordon, one of my alma maters, and he had actually spent 3 years teaching English in China. And so he knew some language, he knew a whole lot about the culture, and I arranged about 6 sessions with him leading up to when I was leaving, and he taught me some key phrases, some useful vocabulary. He taught me a lot about the culture and really prepared me for the whole experience. If I hadn't had his help, it really would have been a culture shock.
Did you go with a group?
I traveled by myself. There was a team competing. The USA put together a team, and so the other members of the team arrived about 4 or 5 days after I did. So I was on my own for several days.
Purposely.
What's that?
Purposely.
Well,
you gotta make something happen in church, right?
I was flying standby, and so I didn't know for sure when I was going to get there, so I left early. And as it turned out, everything went like without a hitch, and so there I was, super early.
So I asked you what were the biggest challenges you've overcome. What are your keys to successful participation in these sorts of events?
Well, I'll be honest with you. Prayer and my faith is a big part of it. You know, when I'm out doing a long run by myself, it can get really lonely and really boring. So I turn to those roots. Sometimes I have friends to do those long runs with, and so it always helps to have that support network. Even if they're not training with me, you know, we check up on each other and encourage each other, so that's really helpful. The key to success is being able to find a way to be consistent. You just, if you want to tackle a long course triathlon, you have to be prepared to train every day, and you have to find a way to make it happen.
So you said you train as well. So what is a typical training like for you?
When I'm training for a long course, I said every day. We do take rest days, so at least once a week I'll take a day off. But a typical training towards the end of a long course training series, I'll have built up to approximately 20 miles running. On the bike, approximately 100 miles riding, and then as far as swimming, the distance is 2.4 miles. So most days I'll do 2 of those disciplines, and at least 1 of the long distance of each a week, and then shorter workouts for speed and skills.
So in China you did the 2.4 swim.
Yes. China was a unique distance.
Yeah, walk me through that.
Yeah, China was a unique distance because it was a different sanctioning body, the International Triathlon Union. All the races I've done at home have been USA Triathlon. But the distance there started with a 2.4 mile swim, which is the longest swim race I've done. I've done that several times. The bike course was a little bit shorter comparatively to the swim. Everything was in kilometers because it was in China. So it was actually 120 kilometers, which is roughly 74 miles or so on the bike. And then the run was 20 kilometers, which is 12.4 miles.
12 miles, okay.
Yes.
So, wow, all right. So, finally, what do you get out of doing all of this, but where in 10 years, 20 years from now, what sort of legacy do you want to see this playing a part of?
In my life?
Yeah, in your life.
I learn a lot about myself from this training and these events. I learn about how much I can endure and how much I can push, and how much I can do things when I don't feel like it or don't want to. And these are things that I can take into other aspects of my life, for example, my professional life. And I think it makes me better at my job. I've gained a lot of confidence from doing this. other attorneys who used to intimidate me. When I came back from my first Ironman race and they started giving me a hard time, I just was unmoved, because I thought, you'll never cover 140 miles without a vehicle, without an automobile. And I had done that on my own, power.
Where they might trump in one way, you trump ultimately physically, which is to you the absolute.
Well, it's not just physical. It's to do a long distance race like that, there's a lot of mental involved in it. All of us can do physically more.
Speaking of which, do you listen to music when you're running? Or
No.
Is music playing in your mind?
Yeah, it's in my mind. I never listen to music. I mostly train outside. I rarely, except for when I have to go to the pool, because in the winter it's too cold to swim outside. But although I've learned I can swim in colder water than I thought I could.
Do other people, when they're racing, they have headphones on?
It's actually against the rules in most of the races for safety reasons. And because you need to be able to hear the officials. A lot of the races, the roads are not closed. So we may have one lane closed off for us, but there's still cars going by. And so it's in your best interest to be able to know what's going on.